Hi, my name is Abraham and I'm your big brother in recovery, welcoming you back to another video series. If this is your first time on the channel, please by all means press the like button because it helps us on the search engines with the algorithm from what I'm told. By all means, leave a comment and help us spread the message to the person who is still suffering both in and out of the rooms. As I forestated, my name is Abraham and I'm your big brother in recovery, hopefully attempting to add more value to you in your pursuit of sustainable sobriety. You know, today's message, well, before I get into that, I hope you enjoyed our last series talking about what is the message of AA. And notice, it never said that here's the story of the men who, let's look at the story page. The story of how many thousands of men and women got clean and sober. Even though clean and sober is great, but you remember what they told us on page, I believe it was, and I said this already, just recapping, on page 80, I believe it is 82, it says, the last paragraph on the page, 1, 2, 3, it says 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth line from the top. We feel a man is unthinking or unwise when he says that sobriety is enough. Yes, sobriety is something definitely to be cherished. That's what we're going to talk about today. But let me explain something to you. Sobriety is soundness of mind because you're attempting to go from insanity, unsound mind. You want to stop doing the things you used to do over and over again, insanity, and now you want to start to be more God-conscious and less self-conscious because all a recovered person is one who has surrendered self-will for God's will. We found that out in the last videos, and if you haven't, go back and look at it. We found out that, what do we recover? Page 72, the first paragraph. We recover a new way of thinking and a new relationship with our Creator because we had developed a negative way of thinking, and we have also developed a relationship with the created, whatever that substance or whatever that situation is that you're addicted to. We found out how we recover. We recover by taking the steps, doing the process. Why? Only the process will produce the results. What is the solution to addiction? We found that out, a spiritual awakening. And if we looked in the chapter in the back of the book on spiritual experiences, it tells you that the word spiritual experience and spiritual awakening are pretty much synonymous, but the difference is, for not to be redundant, the difference is a spiritual experience happens immediately. Bill W. said God comes to most men gradually, but his impact on Bill was sudden and profound. That was Bill's spiritual experience. But spiritual awakening, as William the psychologist, I believe it was William James, said on page 567, I believe it is. Let's go there real quick. He said that in the fourth paragraph, he said that this is of the educational variety, right? 567. And his name was William James. He calls it the educational variety. Why? Because they develop slowly over a period of time. I personally had a spiritual awakening. How did I get the awakening? I went through the process. I didn't have a spiritual experience to my knowledge, but I did have an awakening. And I've told you, we don't usually get sober until we do step 9. But 10, 11, and 12 help us maintain that. In other words, when I got to step 9, I recovered. But 10, 11, and 12 keep me recovered. Now I'm going to share with you today's topic. I'm excited. I'm really, really excited. I'm elated. I'm more grateful than anything because as you're watching this video, I am celebrating currently, if it's the 17th of November, I'm celebrating 40 years of being clean and sober. I'm not saying that to impress you, but I am saying that to impress upon you that what one person can do, another person can do if you're willing to pay the price to do it. See, the Abrahamism is the price is easy to pay if the promise is clearly defined. And what is the promise? Well, there's several promises in this book. But I tell you what, let me take my time, and this video today is about me being grateful for celebrating 40 years of being clean and sober. I'm often asked the difference between the two. Well, let's let our book, as we often do all the talking for us. Many people are under the influence that they're clean because they have dry dates or time, rather, right? See, time is only utilized if it is maximized to fulfill a certain purpose. What do I mean by that? Why don't you go with me to Roman numeral page, I believe it's 28 in your big book, XXV, that's 25, 3 I's, 26, 27, 28, XXV, I, doctor's opinion. Let's look at what Dr. Silkworth described as pretty much clean. Matter of fact, XXX, triple X. Let's look at what he described as clean. And that's found in 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th paragraph, but the last sentence. The only relief we have to suggest is entire abstinence. So clean is merely entire abstinence. If you haven't used something in the last 24 hours or the last 24 years, you're clean. But guess what? You can get clean and never get sober. But you can't get sober without first getting clean. So when I announce that I've been clean and sober for 40 years, that means I have had complete, entire abstinence. I haven't used anything throughout that duration, uninterrupted, no relapses. And I have worked the steps in my life and in continuing to work the principles and practice them in all my affairs currently. And I'll explain that to you. So now we see what clean is, right? It's merely entire abstinence. Now I'd like to show you what sober is, the way I'm currently living right now. Would you go with me to page 84? I'm so grateful for this day. Now I'd like to give you the definition of what you can look forward to when you get sober. Now, I made a statement. I said that the first 9 steps help you recover. 10, 11, and 12 keep you recovered. I also said that there are 2 types of people in recovery. 1, those that are recovering. 2, those of us who have recovered. Now I explain to you, what did we recover? We recovered a relationship with our Creator. Most people miss that, right? Now let's look at something. If you look at page 84, you will see in the 2nd paragraph, basically on 83, it tells you about the promises, and they carry over to the 12 promises. Let's look at them. Start on 83. Let's look at the promises. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we're halfway through. We're going to know a new freedom, a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace, no matter how far down the scale we've gone. We will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of usefulness and self-pity will disappear. Why? Because self was the problem. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Why? Because when we help others, we help ourselves. Notice the prefix is self. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurities will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. And we will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Notice this. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly and sometimes slowly. So what determines the quickly and the slowly? They will always materialize if we work for them. See, we can't do a lot of studying and talking and all this stuff, but we got to put in some work. Dr. Bob said there are two ways to work this program, the hard way and the easy way. He said the hard way was make meetings until they make sense. But the easy way was to read the literature, get a home group, get a sponsor, take the steps at once, have a spiritual awakening, and guess what? Go help somebody else. Now, let's look at something. This brought us to step 10, which suggests we continue to take personal inventory. Why? Because we did moral in 4. I don't do a 4th step no more. I do a 10, 11, and 12 now. And continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. We vigorously commence this way of living as we clean up the past. I'm still working on it. We have entered the world of the spirit now. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. Why? Because the more I learn, the less I know. Why? Because guess what? Spiritual perfection, spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. This is not an overnight matter. It should continue for our lifetime. I told you, 2 people in recovery, those that are recovering and those that have recovered. But guess what? We will always be in pursuit of spiritual progress. They tell us the 10-step promises. Look at this. Continue to watch, 10-step prayer rather. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. Now notice something. Go down to the last paragraph. This is what you can expect when you recover. And we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. Can you imagine? Your biggest fight is with yourself. For by this time, sanity will have returned. Well, sanity came back in step 2. We will seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it as from a hot flame. I don't want that no more. That's how you are. Just backing up from it. We react sanely and normally. Why? We used to react insanely and abnormally. And we will see that this has happened. How soon? Automatically. We'll see that our new attitude, I told you, page 72, that's what we're trying to recover, a new attitude and a new relationship with our Creator, page 72, first paragraph says, towards liquor has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. That's the miracle of it. Why? Because God is doing for us what we couldn't do for ourselves. We're not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation. Where can you go in this world where people are not getting high? You have to have power. We feel as though we have been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. You know that's all you ever want to be all your life? We have not even sworn off. Watch this. You say this in a meeting, they'll put you out because they'll know I showed you this. Instead, the problem has been removed. What's the problem, self? It does not exist for us. Why? Because we went from self-will to embracing God's will. And I'm going to show it to you. It's going to say it. We're neither cocky nor we're afraid. That's our experience, meaning those 100 men and women telling us what they did. That is how we react so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. Now notice something. They're talking about the first 9 steps. Because remember, we came after step 10, right there, right? So notice what it says next. It's easy to let up on the spiritual program of action. What's the spiritual program of action? 3 through 12. And rest on our laurels. You're sitting on those right now. We're headed for trouble if we do. For alcohol is a subtle foe, meaning it's cunning, baffling, and powerful. We're not cured of alcoholism. You've never heard me say on this channel that I was cured, but you've heard me often say I've recovered. Why? Simply because I told you once I sponsored a guy who was a Chicago police officer who got wounded in the line of duty. He got shot in the shoulder, but he made a full recovery. But today he's still not bulletproof. So guess what? I'm gonna use the same analogy. As long as I don't buy the alcohol, it won't bother me. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. That's step 10, 11, and 12. Every day, here's the 10-step prayer. Watch this. Every day, is a day when we must. I told you I'm gonna do a video on these musts. I know our book is a suggestion only, but there are over 168 musts in here. Must carry the vision of God's will into all of our activities. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. These are thoughts which must go with us constantly. We can exercise our willpower along this line all we wish. It's the proper use of the will. But then again, you get some entertainers that tell you, look where your best thinking got you. No. I haven't even begun to use my best thinking until I get to step 9, because guess what? I use my will to fulfill self-will. That's why I had to make a decision to turn my will and my life, which is my actions, over to the care of God, because I was out of control in step 1, right? So now God has managed my life and is continuing to manage my life, right? And guess what? 40 years later, he's done for me what I couldn't do for myself. Now watch this. Now I'm gonna show you something. This next paragraph is powerful. Much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from him who has all knowledge and power. Notice that's a capital him, so it's God. There's one with all power. May you find him now. Half measures avail us nothing. If we have carefully followed directions, meaning what they say in the book, we have begun to sense the flow of his spirit into us. To some extent, we have become God conscious. That's the opposite of self-conscious. When I came here, I was so self-conscious, I wasn't God conscious. Now I'm more God conscious and I'm becoming less self-conscious. We have begun to develop this vital sixth sense. Why? Because you remember our 5 senses, taste, smell, hear, see, touch, those can be manipulated, but not your sixth sense. But we must go further, and that means more action. So, I don't want to get off into step 11 right now, but what I will tell you this is, that is the definition of what you can look forward to when you recover. But as you see, step 11 and 12, I got to keep doing prayer and meditation, keep helping others. Because Dr. Bob summarized the whole program in 6 words. Trust God, that's the first 3 steps. Clean house, step 4 through 11. Help others, step 12. Notice where all the work is. Cleaning house, working on your personal house cleaning. Watch this. So I went from being restless, irritable, and discontent to page 133. Notice what it says. 133, and I believe it is the 2nd sentence. We are sure God wants us to be happy, joyous, and free. I am now happy, joyous, and free. Why? I used to be depressed. I used to suffer from anxiety. I told you before, those that are depressed are worried about all the opportunities and things they did in the past. Those that are suffering from anxiety are worried about what tomorrow is going to bring, so they're not focused on today. Those of us who are peaceful, content, serene, guess what we realize? That God is in control of our future because we've repaired the wreckage of our past. In other words, I have surrendered, that's the first 3 steps. I have shared, that's step 4 through 7. I have did my restitution, paid them bills and all them people back, that's step 8 and 9, and made those amends. And I have continued to get guidance from God, that's step 10 through 12. Now, as I said that, I want you to think about something. I showed you what clean was. I showed you what sober was on page 84. I showed you how I once was restless, irritable, discontent, depressed, suffering from anxiety. Now I'm peaceful and content just for the day. And I also showed you how I did it. Now this is what I need to show you now. How did I do it? You hear all kind of things. Well, it's simple how I did it. You ready? Go to Roman numeral page XXXI. It's an interesting story in the doctor's opinion. And it talks about these two men, one suffering a gastric hemorrhage, which he was bleeding internally, and he had a pathological mental deterioration. And the other guy, he was suffering from depression and chronic alcoholism. But if you look at the first paragraph, and I believe it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines down, I'm often asked, how did I recover? And I give them a simple answer, because how many of you know the best answer is the most simplest answer? Here it is. I simply accepted the plan outlined in this book. That's all I did. And I found somebody who can explain it to me. Now, if you want me to go deeper into that, I'll tell you, it says on page, where is it at? 29, it tells me further on, clear-cut directions are given showing how we have, there it is right there. Give me a second. How we have recovered. So guess what? You got to read the book. You got to get with somebody who has had a spiritual awakening, who has recovered, and have them to show you something, because the more you learn, the less you find out you know. Now, I want to show you a contrast on where I'm at now. I'm often asked, man, you know, you help a lot of people, and one brother told me the other day, I love the way you break this down, and I shared with the brother after I listened to him. I didn't want to be rude and interrupt him, but I told him, or changed his paradigm. I didn't break this down for him. I broke him down for this, because this is already broken down. Go to page 180. I like to go to 180. And I believe this summarizes how I feel right now. And please allow me to speak how I feel, because all feelings are valid. Last paragraph, second to the last. It's the most wonderful blessing to be relieved of the terrible curse with which I was afflicted, meaning addiction. You know, that's an interesting thing. It talks about blessing and curse. I know a lot of people say they blessed right now, but they acting still like they cursed. I mean, God has removed the problem from me. I don't have it anymore. You know, I don't have malice in my heart, and I'm quick to admit when I'm wrong. My health is good. It is. I'm grateful. I'm 60 years old. I'm grateful. Perfect health. I've regained my self-respect. Absolutely I have. And the respect of my colleagues. From what they tell me, my name rings all over the world. My home life is ideal. It is. I have a beautiful wife. We're about to build our dream home. And my business is good as can be expected in these uncertain times. Do you agree these are uncertain times we're living in? We're living in a time when a president won't concede to his defeat. But that's another thing. We don't talk about politics nor religion. Notice what it says next. I spend a great deal, this is me, I spend a great deal of time passing on what I learned to others who want and need it badly. You know, everybody, in my opinion, needs it, but everybody doesn't want it. Why do I do this? I do it for 4 reasons. It's a sense of duty. Number 2, it's a pleasure. I love it. I love helping others, because that's the foundation stone of our recovery, helping others. When you help others, you help yourself. Number 3, because in so doing, I'm paying my debt to the man who took his time to pass this on to me. Because you know what? I had no clue. I didn't know. But that brother took his time and he shared with me. Now he's made his transition. And you know what? I'm here with several others who are still carrying this message, not the message, because there are many good messages out there. But this message is that you can recover from alcoholism. And last but not least, because every time I do it, I take out a little more insurance for myself against a possible slip. You know, that's why I started Sobriety Society, because I remember looking at that word slip, and I know it means a sudden fall, but in prayer and meditation one morning, my higher power, who I choose to call God, told me sobriety loses its priority. When it does, that's when you relapse. And so that's where I got the name Sobriety Society International. I want to conclude with something because I don't want to waste too much of your time, but I'd like to draw your attention to page 164. If you're still battling, you don't have to, because there's a solution. The solution is you must accept spiritual help, because you need a spiritual awakening, simply because there's no chemical solution for your spiritual problem. That's why one is too many and 1,000 isn't enough. And you must work these steps. You must, because there's something blocking the relationship. Now, you already know, no relationship with the Creator, no recovery, because you're still stuck with the the created, right? So, second paragraph, this is to you. Our book is meant to be suggested only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Why? More to be revealed. Ask him here's a 12-step prayer. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. Why? I used to be very sick. Today, I'm well. My book tells me that. Burn into the consciousness of every man that he can get well regardless of anybody. And guess what they tell you in the room? They tell you you'll never get well. But guess what? Look at page 98 right quick. Stay there. We'll go to 98. Look at the second paragraph. Burn the idea into the consciousness, not the subconscious. Because remember, before I recovered, I was a slave to my subconscious. But once my subconscious got removed, I'm now 100% conscious. What am I conscious about? That it's God's will and not mine. Of every man that he can get well regardless of anyone. The only condition is that he trusts God, clean house, and help others. We already said that. So you can get well. Don't listen to what the message is, because there are many messages. This message is you can get well. Watch this. But obviously, you can't transmit something you haven't got. A lot of people do that. They call them two-steppers. They work step 1 and they work step 12. That's all they do. See to it that your relationship with him is right, meaning God. And great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is a great fact for us. I'm experiencing it right now. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Here's the whole recovery process. Admit your faults to him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. Come on. We will be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit. And you will surely meet some of us as you trudge to the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. I want to caution you, even though this is what we want you to do, there are many out there who are against this particular message. And I'd like to show it to you on page 181 again, the last paragraph. If you think you are an atheist, an agnostic, or a skeptic, or having any other form of intellectual pride, which keeps you from accepting what's in this book. You remember I told you how I recovered? I simply accepted the plan outlined in the book. Why? Because I got over my intellectual pride. Who am I to say there's no God? I feel sorry for you. If you still think you're strong enough to beat the game alone, see, I beat the game, but I beat the game when I walked away from the game. Because as long as you stay in the game, you're going to get beat and you're going to beat people. So when I walked away from the game, I beat the game because I stopped playing one because the stakes was too high. I didn't want the supreme sacrifice of losing my life. That's your affair. But if you really and truly want to quit drinking liquor for good and all, and sincerely feel that you must have some help, we know that we have an answer for you. Wow. It never fails. Why? Rarely have we seen a person fail. What does rarely mean? Every blue moon, sometimes, not all the time, because guess what? It only fails if you cannot or will not completely give yourself over to a simple program. Surrender to it. If you go about it with one half the zeal you have been in the habit of showing when you were getting another drink, putting all that energy into using, if you put that into this recovery, that's all I did. Your Heavenly Father will never let you down. So I like to conclude because this is a very, very monumental point in my life. Never saw it coming. Grateful that I'm here. Looking forward to 40 more. But I like to leave something with you that I think may help you. God's answers in 3 different ways, or 3 answers that I've been given over the 40 years. 1, he says yes and gives you what you want. 2, he says no and gives you something better. But number 3, he says wait and gives you the best. It is my hope and my prayer that God continues to increase you more and more, protect you from all hurt, harm, and danger, both seen and unseen, and take you to places you never thought you would go. But first, you have to forgive yourself because you made a mistake. That's why they have erasers on pencils. But if you, like the old folks used to tell us, let go and let God, guess what? Things will start to happen for you. Look, it's your big brother Abraham telling you it's difficult, but you have to learn how to be straight in a crooked world, because the best way to tell a crooked stick is to put a straight one next to it. Hey, look, I love you. Please send this message out to all our friends, and some of you that always email me, let me know, and thank you, and so on and so forth. But we still got a lot of work to do, a lot of work to do. So help us help them carry this message, okay? I'll talk to you soon. Stay on the path. Bye.